The scratch on my son's cheek was a map of secrets he couldn't yet name. In the polished dining room of the Warrens' lakeside mansion, I watched Eleanor Warren coax my 10-year-old Caleb into shaking hands with the girl who'd hurt him. "He must have upset her," Eleanor said, her voice smooth as the silk scarf around her neck, her smile a blade veiled in courtesy. That moment ignited something in me, a fury I'd buried under years of diplomacy. For too long they'd seen me as pliable, Mara Tate, the part-time florist who arranged bouquets for their galas and nodded through their subtle slights. But they'd overlooked a truth as old as time. Even the softest hearts turn fierce when their children are at risk. I left that evening with Caleb's hand in mine, the Warrens' laughter echoing behind us. They thought they'd smoothed over. Another inconvenience. They didn't know silence wasn't defeat. It was the first note of a reckoning. The late summer haze hung heavy over our small Minnesota town, the air thick with the scent of pine and lake water. I stood in my kitchen arranging wildflowers for a client's wedding, while Caleb packed his backpack for a weekend at his grandfather's estate. His movements were slow, almost reluctant, as he folded a favorite hoodie. "Don't forget your sketchbook," I said, glancing at the worn notebook on the counter where he drew his fantastical creatures. He nodded, tucking it under a pair of jeans without meeting my eyes. "I'm Mara Tate, a single mother and freelance florist. My days. A blend of soil-stained hands, late-night invoices, and ensuring Caleb feels steady despite the fault lines in our family. Since my divorce from Nathan Warren 4 years ago, I've balanced keeping Caleb connected to his father's wealthy family while shielding him from their expectations. Do I have to go to Grandpa Victor's?" Caleb asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Can't I stay and help with a wedding order?" I crouched beside him, brushing his sandy hair from his forehead. "I know it's a lot, buddy, but it's important to spend time with family. Your cousins will be there, right? It's the big summer gathering." His gaze flickered to the floor. "Yeah." That pause should have been my first clue. The Warren estate sprawled across 10 acres along Lake Minnetonka, a monument to inherited wealth and meticulous control. As I parked my battered Subaru in the gravel drive, Victor Warren stood on the porch, his silver hair glinting in the sun, his posture radiating authority. "We were starting to think you'd gotten lost," he said, his tone light but his eyes sharp as they scanned my car. "We're on time, Victor," I replied, checking my phone. 3 o'clock as promised." He ushered Caleb inside, his hand firm on my son's shoulder. "The children are already at the dock. Nora's been asking for you." At the mention of Nora, Caleb's steps faltered. Nora was Victor's pride, his eldest son's daughter, 11 years old with a charm that dazzled adults. But I was beginning to suspect she wielded a different kind of influence over her peers. "Is Nathan here?" I asked, stepping into the foyer, its walls lined with oil paintings of stern-faced ancestors. "He's on a call," Victor said dismissively. "The firm doesn't pause for family weekends, Mara." Typical. My ex-husband had always placed the Warren Investment Group above everything. Our marriage, our son, his own peace. Since our divorce. Nathan's time with Caleb had shrunk to these orchestrated gatherings and sporadic dinners when his schedule allowed. From the lakefront came the sound of children's voices, laughter mingling with the splash of water. Through the wide windows, I saw kids diving off the dock. Nora stood on the shore directing 2 younger cousins in a game. Her confidence bordered on command, and something about it unsettled me. "Maybe I'll check on them before I go," I offered. Victor waved a hand. "They're fine. Kids need space to sort things out without parents hovering." Then came a sharp yelp, followed by a child's angry shout. I peered outside and saw a younger boy, one of Nathan's cousin's kids, scrambling up from the sand while Nora loomed over him. "Nora!" Victor called through the window, his voice firm but not alarmed. "Help Ethan up." To me, he added, "Girls can be spirited. Some kids need a stronger push to learn their place." The words landed like a slap, their implication clear. My parenting was too gentle, too weak. I knelt to hug Caleb goodbye. "Call me if you need me, okay? I'm always here." His arms clung to me briefly. "Can't you stay a little longer?" "Caleb," Victor interjected, "your cousins are waiting. Your mom has work to do." Not really. My weekend would be spent worrying and arranging flowers for stranger celebrations, but arguing with Victor was like wrestling. Fog, pointless and exhausting. "I'll see you Sunday, kiddo. We'll go for ice cream." Caleb nodded, his eyes downcast as Victor led him toward the lake. Just before they reached the door, I heard Victor say, "No whining about little spats, Caleb. Warrens handle things. Quietly." That knot in my gut tightened, but I pushed it down. For years, Nathan and his family had told me I was too sensitive, too quick to see problems where none existed. So I smiled, waved, and drove away, leaving my son behind. For 2 days, I lost myself in work, crafting centerpieces while checking my phone obsessively. Caleb didn't call. By Sunday morning, I couldn't wait any longer. I arrived at the estate early, parking near the gate and walking the familiar path to the lakefront. Voices drifted from the open patio, Victor's authoritative tone, a child's. Stifled sob, and then words that froze me. "You need to say sorry to Nora, Caleb. You made her upset. Boys don't get to act like that without a reason." I stepped into view. The scene seared itself into my mind. Caleb sitting on a bench clutching his cheek, Nora standing nearby, arms crossed, a faint smirk on her face. Victor kneeling beside my son, his hand heavy on Caleb's shoulder. "Say you're sorry," Victor repeated. Caleb's eyes met mine, brimming with tears. "Mom? What happened?" My voice was low, controlled, but inside I was screaming. Victor stood, his expression unruffled. "A misunderstanding. Caleb provoked Nora and she reacted. We're sorting it out." I crossed to Caleb, gently tilting his face. A fresh scratch ran from his cheekbone to his jaw, red and angry. "It was an accident," Victor said smoothly. "Kids play rough. Caleb needs to learn actions have consequences." I gathered Caleb's bag, keeping him close. My mind churned, with everything I wanted to say, but his trembling frame kept me focused. "We're leaving," I said. "Mara, don't make a scene," Victor's tone sharpened. "This is the kind of overreaction that—" I turned, my stare cutting him off. "We're done." As we walked away, Nora called, "See ya, whiner." Victor didn't correct her. In the car, Caleb stared out the window, silent. At home in our cozy kitchen, the truth poured out. "It's not the first time," he whispered. "Nora trips me when no one's watching. Last time she locked me. In the boathouse." Each word was a dagger. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Grandpa Victor said not to tattle. He said I need to be tougher." That night, I photographed the scratch and documented everything. I made a vow. Never again would I ignore my instincts. The Warrens thought they could silence us. They were about to learn how loud the truth could be. The photograph of Caleb's scratch stared back at me from my laptop, a stark reminder that some truths refused to be ignored. In our small Minnesota kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator filled the silence as I typed every detail of that Sunday at the Warren estate. Nora's smirk, Victor's dismissal, Caleb's trembling voice confessing months of hidden torment. My hands shook, not from fear but from a resolve I hadn't known I possessed. I'd spent years bending to the Warrens' will, Mara Tate, the agreeable ex-daughter-in-law who never made waves. But my son's pain had redrawn the map of my heart, and I was ready to fight. That Monday morning, I called my friend Lena, a family law attorney who'd handled my divorce from Nathan. "I need advice," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "And I need to know if I'm being irrational." After hearing Caleb's story, the tripping, the boathouse incident, the scratch, Lena's response was immediate. "You're not irrational, Mara. You're awake. This is about your son's safety." She promised to meet me the next day to strategize. Caleb sat at the kitchen table, sketching a dragon with jagged wings. His pencil moved hesitantly, unlike the bold strokes he'd once used. "Am I in trouble?" he asked, not looking up. I sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "No, buddy. You did nothing wrong. I'm just making sure you're safe." His eyes, so like Nathan's but softer, met mine. "Grandpa Victor's gonna be mad." The fear in his voice cut deeper than any blade. The next day, I met Lena at her office, a cozy space cluttered with legal books and framed photos of her kids. She reviewed the photos and my notes, her brow furrowing. "This is a pattern, Mara. Nora's behavior, Victor's enabling, it's not isolated. We need to document everything and report it." She advised contacting Caleb's school counselor to corroborate any behavioral changes. "The Warrens will fight dirty," she warned. "They have money and connections, but you have the truth." That afternoon, I sat with Ms. Harper, Caleb's school counselor, a woman with warm eyes and a knack for listening. Caleb's been quieter this year, she confirmed, flipping through her notes. His teacher noticed he stopped joining group activities after summer break. And his drawings. She hesitated, then pulled out a sketch from her file. A small boy trapped in a dark box, a larger figure standing outside with a cruel smile. He drew this after a weekend away. I asked if he felt safe, and he said he does at home with you and at school. He didn't mention his father's family. The drawing was a punch to the gut. How had I missed this? We're conditioned to accept what powerful people tell us is normal, Lena had said, and I realized the Warrens had trained me to doubt my instincts. No more. I thanked Ms. Harper, who promised to file a mandatory report based on Caleb's behavior and my account. That evening, my phone rang. Nathan's name flashed on the screen, and I braced myself. What the hell are you doing, Mara? His voice was ice. Mother told me you're making a scene over nothing. Nora scratched Caleb during a game. Kids fight. You're blowing this out of proportion. I stared at the photo on my table, the red welt on Caleb's cheek, too deliberate to be accidental. This isn't a game, Nathan. It's harm. Caleb's been scared to tell me because your father told him to stay quiet. You're trying to turn him against us, Nathan snapped. This is about your resentment, not Caleb's safety. The accusation stung, echoing years of Warren gaslighting. Your father made Caleb apologize to Nora for her hurting him, I said. Explain how that's right. Silence stretched, then Nathan's tone hardened. Nora's a kid. She's spirited. Caleb needs to toughen up. I hung up, my heart pounding. They were circling the wagons, just as Lena predicted. The next morning I started a journal, logging every detail. Caleb's reluctance before Warren visits, his nightmares after, the way he'd stopped laughing as freely. I scoured old photos, noticing how Caleb stood apart in Warren family pictures, his smile tight, his body angled away from Nora. The evidence was subtle but undeniable. You're not alone, Lena reminded me when I showed her my findings. You're building a case. 2 days later, Child Services visited the Warren estate. Victor's response was swift, a text that dripped with disdain. Dragging outsiders into family matters is low, Mara. This shows who you really are. Then came a call from Nathan's lawyer hinting at parental alienation and suggesting my instability could jeopardize custody. The threats were clear, but I refused to back down. That night, Caleb woke screaming from a nightmare about being locked in the boathouse. I held him until he calmed, his small body shaking. She said I deserved it, he whispered. Nora said I'm weak. I kissed his forehead, vowing to shield him from that poison. The next day, I enrolled him in art therapy, hoping it would help him express what words couldn't. A week later, an unexpected ally emerged. At Caleb's school, his art teacher, Mrs. Larson, pulled me aside. I've noticed Caleb's drawings changing, she said quietly. They're darker, more confined. Last month, he drew a boy running from a shadow. I kept it because it worried me. She handed me the sketch, a haunting image of fear and isolation. If you need me to testify, I will, she added. Her support felt like a lifeline. That evening, my phone pinged with an email from a stranger. I'm Claire Voss, a former nanny for the Warrens. I heard about your situation through a mutual friend. I saw things when I worked there. I'll talk if you need me. Hope flickered, fragile but real. The Warrens had built their world on control, but cracks were forming, and through them, the truth was seeping out. If this story's hitting home, those moments you stayed quiet to keep peace only to find your voice was your strength, give it a like. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more tales of courage rising from the shadows. The email from Claire Voss sat in my inbox like a live wire, its promise of truth both thrilling and terrifying. In our Minnesota home, I stared at the screen, the glow casting shadows across the wildflower sketches pinned to my kitchen wall. Caleb slept upstairs, his art therapy book clutched like a shield. Each revelation from him, Nora's taunts, the boathouse, the scratches, had peeled back another layer of my guilt for not seeing it sooner. I'd been Mara Tate, the florist who smoothed over tensions to keep the peace with the Warrens. But peace at the cost of my son's safety was no peace at all. Claire's words, I saw things, echoed in my mind, a spark in the dark. I met Claire at a quiet diner on the edge of town, its neon sign flickering in the late summer dusk. She was younger than I'd expected, mid-20s, with nervous hands that twisted a napkin as she spoke. "I worked for the Warrens 2 summers ago," she said, her voice low. "I signed an NDA when they let me go, but what's happening with Caleb? I can't stay quiet." She slid her phone across the table, showing a text from Eleanor Warren. "Handle the children's disputes discreetly. Nora's spirited nature isn't to be questioned." The message was about a boy Nora had pushed into the lake during a family picnic. His parents dismissed with assurances it was just play. "Did you believe it was just play?" I asked, my coffee untouched. Claire's eyes hardened. "No. Nora targeted kids when adults weren't watching, tripping them, hiding their things, blaming them for her actions. Victor and Eleanor always covered for her, said the other kids were too soft." Her story mirrored Caleb's too closely to be coincidence. "I was fired after I reported an incident to the parents," she added. "A girl Nora locked in a shed. They paid the family to stay quiet." Claire agreed to provide a sworn statement to Lena, my attorney. It wasn't proof of Caleb's specific incidents, but it built a pattern, a crack in the Warrens' polished armor. Back home, I added her account to my journal, now a thick file of photos, drawings, and notes. Caleb's latest art therapy piece, a boy painting a glowing door in a dark forest, gave me hope. "It's me finding a way out," he'd explained to his therapist, Ms. Keller. His words were a lifeline, but the fight was far from over. The Warrens struck back swiftly. A certified letter arrived from their lawyer accusing me of fabricating allegations and threatening a custody challenge. Nathan called that evening, his voice sharp with accusation. "You're poisoning Caleb against his family, Mara. This stunt with child services is embarrassing us all." I gripped the phone, staring at Caleb's dragon sketch on the fridge. "Embarrassment isn't my concern, Nathan. Your daughter hurt our son and your parents enabled it." "That's the problem," he scoffed. "Nora's a kid. You're blowing this out of proportion because you've always resented our family's success." His words stung, but I was done shrinking. Caleb told his therapist about the boathouse. "Nathan, about Nora's taunts. Tell me how that's my resentment." Silence. Then, "You're making him soft, just like you." I hung up, my resolve hardening. The Warrens thrived on silencing dissent, but I was no longer their obedient ex-daughter-in-law. At Caleb's next therapy session, Ms. Keller shared more insights. "Caleb's drawings show fear but also resilience," she said, showing me a sketch of a dragon shielding a small boy from a storm. "He's processing his experiences, but he's terrified of Nora and distrusts adults who dismiss him." She paused. "He mentioned Victor telling him Warrens don't complain." "That's a heavy burden for a child." Her report, combined with Ms. Harper's from school, strengthened our case. The school had filed a formal report, triggering an investigation. The next morning, I found an unexpected message in my inbox from a local reporter, Sarah Klein, who'd heard whispers of our story through a teacher friend. "I don't want publicity," I told Lena over coffee. "This is about Caleb, not headlines." Lena nodded. "I get it, but public pressure can shift things. The Warrens rely on their untouchable image. If you control the narrative, it could protect Caleb." Reluctantly, I agreed to an anonymous interview, sharing only the broad strokes. A mother fighting a powerful family to protect her child from bullying, enabled by adults who valued appearances over truth. Sarah's article appeared online the next day, titled "A Mother's Battle Against a Family's Silence." It didn't name the Warrens, but described a wealthy clan shielding a child's aggression. Comments poured in, some skeptical, but many from locals sharing similar experiences with certain families in town. The story was gaining traction, and I felt both empowered and exposed. Then came a breakthrough. Late one night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check your email. You need to see this." Attached was a video clip, grainy but clear, from the Warren Estates security system. It showed Nora shoving Caleb off a dock chair, scratching his cheek as he fell, while Eleanor watched from the patio, her face impassive. The timestamp matched the Sunday I'd picked him up. The message read, "I worked maintenance for the Warrens. They forgot the cameras saved to a cloud. I can't come forward, but this is wrong." I forwarded the video to Lena, who called immediately. "This is gold, Mara. It corroborates everything. We need to get this to the court. My heart raced, hope, fear, and fury colliding. The Warrens had built their empire on secrets, but this truth couldn't be buried. The next day, Lena filed for an emergency hearing, submitting the video, Claire's statement, and the school reports. The court assigned a guardian ad litem, Ms. Torres, to represent Caleb's interests. Meanwhile, Victor's influence loomed. A friend from my floral shop mentioned Eleanor had called, suggesting I was unstable and shouldn't be trusted with clients. The Warrens were trying to isolate us, but they hadn't counted on the community rallying. Mrs. Larson, Caleb's art teacher, organized a small art show for his class, giving Caleb a safe space to shine. His dragon painting, vibrant and bold, drew gasps from parents. "He's finding his voice," Mrs. Larson whispered to me. Caleb's nightmares lessened, his sketches growing brighter. "I drew a hero today," he told me, showing a warrior with a glowing shield. "It's you, Mom." Tears stung my eyes. I'd failed to protect him before, but I was fighting now. The Warrens thought they could outlast us. They were wrong. The security footage played on a small screen in Judge Clara Mendel's chambers, each frame a silent indictment of the Warren family's lies. Nora's deliberate shove, Caleb's fall, the scratch across his cheek, and Eleanor Warren's impassive stare from the patio. It was undeniable. I sat beside Lena, my attorney, my heart pounding as the video looped. The air in the room was thick with tension, the kind that precedes a storm breaking. I'd been Mara Tate, the florist who avoided conflict, but protecting Caleb had forged me into something fiercer. The Warrens thought they could bury the truth. Today they'd learn it had claws. Judge Mendel leaned back, her expression unreadable. "Ms. Tate, how was this footage obtained?" she asked, her voice measured. Lena responded, "It was sent anonymously to my client, Your Honor, likely from the Warren Estate's security system. The metadata confirms the date and time align with the incident." The judge's eyes narrowed. "And you have no knowledge of the sender?" I shook my head. "No, Your Honor, but the video speaks for itself." She nodded. "I'm scheduling an emergency hearing for tomorrow, 10 a.m. All parties will attend." Outside, Lena gripped my arm. "This is our moment, Mara. The video, Claire's statement, the school reports, it's a solid case. Judge Mendel prioritizes child welfare." I wanted to believe her, but the Warrens' influence loomed like a shadow. "They'll have an explanation," I said. "They always do." Lena's smile was grim. "Not this time. Not with this evidence." That night, I tucked Caleb into bed, his dragon sketchbook open to a new drawing, a boy wielding a glowing sword against a faceless shadow. "Is court like a battle?" he asked, his voice small. I smoothed his hair. "Kinda, buddy. But it's a battle to keep you safe, and I'm not fighting alone." He nodded, clutching his stuffed wolf. "I told Ms. Keller about the boathouse today. She said it's brave to tell the truth." Pride swelled in my chest. My son was finding his voice, and I'd make sure it was heard. The next morning, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. The Warrens arrived in force, Victor stern and imposing, Eleanor elegant but cold, Nathan avoiding my gaze, and their lawyer, Gregory Holt, a shark in a tailored suit. Nora sat beside Eleanor, her hair in perfect braids, her expression angelic. Her eyes met mine, and a flicker of defiance crossed her face, chilling me. Caleb stayed with my neighbor, spared from the proceedings for now. Holt opened with a barrage. "Your Honor, this video is inadmissible, obtained without consent and possibly edited. It lacks context." Judge Mendel raised an eyebrow. "Are you claiming it's fabricated, Mr. Holt?" He backpedaled. "Not fabricated, but incomplete. The children were playing a game that escalated. Mrs. Warren was unaware of the full situation." Lena countered. "What game justifies an adult watching a child harm another without intervening?" Her voice was steel, and Holt's composure faltered. Judge Mendel called Eleanor to the stand. She glided forward, her poise unshaken. "Your Honor, I adore all my grandchildren," she said, her voice honeyed. "What the video shows is unfortunate, but Caleb had been provoking Nora all day, taking her toys, challenging her." She reacted impulsively. My nails dug into my palms, lies spun with such ease. "So your response was to have Caleb apologize for being attacked?" Judge Mendel asked, her tone sharp. Eleanor hesitated. I believe children must learn accountability for their role in conflicts. Accountability for being shoved and scratched? The judge pressed. For the first time, Eleanor's mask slipped, her lips tightening. Before she could recover, the courtroom door opened. A woman in her 30s entered quietly, taking a seat in the back. Lena glanced at me, her eyes widening slightly. She knew her. Next, Ms. Keller, Caleb's therapist, took the stand. Caleb exhibits anxiety tied to interactions with Nora and his grandparents, she testified. He's described repeated bullying, physical and verbal, and a fear of adults who dismiss his concerns. Holt objected, claiming hearsay, but Ms. Keller held firm. I've evaluated children for a decade. Caleb's accounts are consistent and emotionally authentic. Judge Mendel overruled the objection, her attention fixed on the testimony. Ms. Keller described a sand tray Caleb created in therapy, a lone wolf surrounded by larger wolves with adult wolves watching from a distance. He said it feels like being at his grandparents' house, she explained. The imagery hit me hard, a mirror to my son's isolation. Nathan shifted in his seat, his discomfort palpable. Claire Voss testified next, recounting Nora's pattern of aggression during her time as a nanny. She locked a girl in a shed, pushed a boy into the lake, Claire said. The Warrens always blamed the other children. Holt tried to paint her as bitter, but her calm delivery held weight. Then came a surprise witness, Lisa Moreno, the mother of the girl Nora had locked in the shed. We took a settlement to stay quiet, she admitted, her voice trembling. But after reading that article, I couldn't stay silent. My daughter still has nightmares. Sarah Klein's article had rippled further than I'd imagined. Judge Mendel's gaze sharpened. Why speak now, Ms. Moreno? Lisa looked at me. Because I know what it's like to feel alone against a family like that. I won't let another child suffer. The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling over us. As the hearing broke for lunch, the mystery woman from earlier approached Lena. After a brief exchange, Lena pulled me aside. That's Jenna Price, Victor's former assistant. She has emails between Victor and Nora's school about 2 incidents of bullying they hushed up with donations. My breath caught. Another crack in the Warrens' fortress. When proceedings resumed, Judge Mendel issued a temporary order. No contact between Caleb and Nora or the Warrens with Nathan, allowed supervised visits only. This court takes child safety seriously, she stated. The evidence suggests a troubling pattern of enabling harmful behavior. Holt's objections were brushed aside, and Victor's face darkened, a storm brewing behind his eyes. Outside, reporters swarmed, drawn by Sarah's article and court leaks. Lena fielded them with a statement. We're grateful the court is prioritizing a child's well-being. At home, Caleb ran to me, his eyes bright. Mrs. Larson says my painting's going in the town art fair. His joy was a balm, but the fight wasn't over. The Warrens would retaliate, and I needed to be ready. The courtroom's echo lingered in my mind as I drove home under a Minnesota sky bruised with autumn clouds. Judge Mendel's temporary order, no contact with Nora or the Warrens, supervised. Visits for Nathan felt like a victory, but the Warrens' silence was too calculated to trust. I'd been Mara Tate, the florist who once wilted under their scrutiny, but Caleb's courage had rooted me in defiance. The security footage, Claire's testimony, and Lisa Moreno's confession had cracked their facade, yet I knew they'd fight back with everything they had. In our kitchen, Caleb's latest drawing, a boy and a dragon soaring above a storm, hung on the fridge, a reminder of what I was fighting for. The Warrens' retaliation began subtly but viciously. By Monday, 2 major clients canceled their floral orders, citing scheduling conflicts that felt too convenient. A neighbor whispered that Eleanor had been calling around, questioning my reliability as a businesswoman. Then came a letter from their lawyer, Gregory Holt, accusing me of defamation and threatening a countersuit. They're trying to choke you out, Lena warned over coffee. Cut your income, isolate you socially. Classic power play. I nodded, my jaw tight. They can try, but I'm not backing down. Caleb's art therapy was becoming his sanctuary. At his latest session, Ms. Keller showed me a new piece. A boy painting a sunrise over a dark lake, the colors bold and unapologetic. He's reclaiming his sense of safety, she said, but he's still processing the fear of not being believed. Caleb had told her about another incident, Nora hiding his sketchbook and laughing when he cried. She said I was a baby, he'd confessed. Each revelation was a knife, but it also fueled my resolve. I enrolled him in a weekend art workshop, hoping creativity would anchor him as we braced for the storm. The town art fair was a week away, and Caleb's dragon painting had been selected as a centerpiece. Mrs. Larson, his art teacher, called to share the news. He's got real talent, Mara, and heart. The community's rallying around him. Her words warmed me, but the Warrens' shadow loomed. A local boutique owner, a friend of Eleanor's, had pulled her sponsorship from the fair, hinting at controversy surrounding one of the artists. I knew it was about Caleb, then came a bombshell. Jenna Price, Victor's former assistant, met me at a park bench by Lake Minnetonka, her hands trembling as she handed me a USB drive. These are emails and financial records, she whispered, glancing around. Victor paid off 3 families to silence complaints about Nora's behavior at her private school in a summer camp. She explained how she'd copied the files before leaving her job, unable to stomach the cover-ups. There's also a memo from Eleanor to the school board, instructing them to downplay Nora's incidents as childish pranks. My heart raced. This was the pattern we needed, proof the Warrens had systematically shielded Nora. I forwarded the files to Lena, who called within the hour. This is explosive, Mara. We're amending our filings to include this. It shows a history of enabling abuse, she paused. But be ready. Victor's connected. He'll pull every string to discredit Jenna. That night, I sat at my laptop, adding the new evidence to my journal. I'd started a private blog, Breaking the Silence, to process our journey, never intending to share it. But as I typed, I wondered if going public could protect Caleb by exposing the Warrens' tactics. The next morning, Sarah Klein, the reporter, reached out again. Her article had gained traction, picked up by a regional news outlet. People are talking, Mara, she said. Other families have contacted me, hinting at similar experiences with the Warrens. I hesitated, then shared Jenna's revelations anonymously, keeping names out. Sarah's new piece, Wealth and Secrets, A Family's Hidden Abuses, hit the internet that evening. The comment section exploded with locals sharing stories of the Warrens' influence, quiet payoffs, hushed complaints. The story was gaining traction, but I braced for the backlash. It came faster than expected. Victor called, his voice cold as ice. You're destroying our family's legacy, Mara. This public smear campaign ends now, or you'll lose everything. Your business, your reputation, even Caleb. I gripped the phone, my voice steady. Your legacy is built on silencing kids like mine. I'm not afraid of you. He hung up, but the threat lingered. That afternoon, my landlord received an anonymous tip, questioning my stability as a tenant. Lena wasn't surprised. They're desperate, she said. That means we're winning. Caleb's art fair became a turning point. The community center was packed, fairy lights twinkling above rows of student artwork. Caleb's dragon painting glowed under the spotlight, its vibrant wings drawing murmurs of awe. He stood beside it, shy but proud, as parents and teachers offered praise. Mrs. Larson pulled me aside. He told me he feels safe here, she said. That's huge. I smiled, but my eyes caught a familiar figure in the crowd, Nathan, standing alone, watching Caleb from a distance. Our eyes met, and he looked away, his expression conflicted. After the fair, Nathan approached me in the parking lot. Mara, can we talk? His voice lacked its usual arrogance. I crossed my arms. What's there to say, Nathan? You've dismissed Caleb's pain for years. He flinched. I didn't know it was this bad. I thought, Mom and Dad always said Nora was just spirited. I stared at him. You chose to believe them over your son. That's not ignorance, it's neglect. He nodded, eyes downcast. I'm starting therapy. I want to be better, for Caleb. I didn't trust him yet, but the crack in his defenses was new. That night, Caleb showed me a new drawing, a boy and a dragon standing together, the shadow from his earlier sketches fading. I don't feel scared anymore, he said. Not when I'm with you. Tears pricked my eyes. I'd failed him once, but I was making it right. The Warrens could threaten all they wanted. Their empire was crumbling, and Caleb was rising. As I tucked him in, my phone buzzed with a message from Lena. Emergency hearing rescheduled for tomorrow. Jenna's testifying. Be ready. The truth was closing in, and I was ready to face it head on. The courtroom felt like a crucible, its air heavy with the weight of unspoken truths finally finding voice. As Jenna Price took the stand, clutching a folder of damning emails, I felt a surge of hope laced with dread. The Warrens sat across the aisle, Victor's jaw tight, Eleanor's face a mask of composure, Nathan staring at the floor. I'd once been Mara Tate, the florist who bowed to their influence, but Caleb's pain had ignited a fire in me. His dragon painting, now framed in our living room, was a testament to his resilience, and mine. Today, in Judge Clara Mendel's courtroom, the Warrens' empire of silence would face its reckoning. Jenna's voice trembled but held firm as she presented her evidence. These emails show Victor Warren arranging payments to 3 families to silence complaints about Nora's behavior, she said, handing the folder to the bailiff. One incident involved Nora pushing a classmate down a stairwell at her private school. Another was a boy she locked in a camp storage room. The third was a girl whose arm she twisted during a field trip. Each time the Warrens made donations to ensure no formal reports were filed. The courtroom was silent, the gravity of her words sinking in. Gregory Holt, the Warrens' lawyer, launched into damage control. Your Honor, Ms. Price is a disgruntled former employee with no credibility. These documents could be fabricated. But Jenna didn't flinch. I kept digital backups because I saw children being hurt and dismissed. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Judge Mendel's eyes narrowed as she reviewed the emails, her silence more powerful than any objection. Lena, my attorney, seized the moment. Your Honor, this evidence, combined with the security footage, Claire Voss's testimony, and the school reports, establishes a clear pattern of enabling Nora's aggression. Caleb Tate has suffered repeated harm, dismissed by adults who prioritized family image over his safety. Holt's objections grew frantic, but Judge Mendel raised a hand. I've heard enough for now. I'll review these documents. We'll reconvene tomorrow for my ruling. As we left the courtroom, reporters swarmed, their cameras flashing like fireflies in the autumn dusk. Sarah Klein's articles had turned our case into a regional story with headlines like, Minnesota family faces allegations of shielding child's bullying. Lena delivered a measured statement. We trust the court to prioritize a child's safety over wealth and influence. Victor brushed past, his glare venomous, while Eleanor offered a tight-lipped, no comment. Nathan lingered, his eyes meeting mine briefly before he followed his parents. At home, Caleb was sketching, his pencil moving with newfound confidence. His latest piece, a boy and a dragon standing on a cliff, sunlight breaking through clouds, felt like a prophecy. Mrs. Larson says my painting's getting a special award at the fair, he told me, a shy smile breaking through. Can we go together? I hugged him tightly. Of course, buddy. I'm so proud of you. His joy was a lifeline, but the Warrens' shadow still loomed. That evening, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check the news. A local station had aired a segment on our case, featuring an interview with another family, the Carters, whose son had been bullied by Nora at a summer camp 2 years ago. We took a settlement because we felt powerless, Mrs. Carter said, her voice breaking. But Mara Tate's fight gave us courage to speak. The segment included a clip of Caleb's dragon painting from the art fair with the anchor noting its powerful symbolism of resilience. My heart swelled. Caleb's voice was reaching beyond our small town. The Warrens' retaliation intensified. A major wedding planner, a Warren family friend, dropped my floral business from their vendor list, citing reputational concerns. My landlord called, uneasy about complaints from unnamed sources. Lena was unfazed. They're panicking, she said. Jenna's testimony and the public attention are cornering them. She was right. Online, the comment sections of Sarah's articles buzzed with support. A hashtag, Trust Truth for Caleb, had started trending locally with parents sharing stories of standing up to powerful families. The next morning before the hearing, Nathan texted, Can we meet? Just you and me. Against my better judgment, I agreed. To a coffee shop near the courthouse. He looked haggard. The polish of the Warren name dulled. I've been blind, Mara, he said, his voice low. Therapy's making me see how much I let my parents control me. I didn't protect Caleb, and I'm ashamed. I studied him, searching for sincerity. Words aren't enough, Nathan. Caleb needs a father who chooses him over your family's pride. He nodded. I'm trying. I want to make this right. I didn't trust him fully, but his admission was a crack in the Warren armor. Back in court, the atmosphere was electric. Ms. Torres, Caleb's guardian ad litem, presented her report. Caleb's accounts are consistent across therapy, school, and my interviews, she said. He feels unsafe with Nora and his grandparents who dismissed his concerns. I recommend no unsupervised contact with the Warren family until significant changes are made. Her words were a blow to the Warrens, and Victor's face reddened. Then came a turning point. During a court-mandated family therapy session, observed by Ms. Torres, Nora's composure cracked. When asked about Caleb, she snapped, "He's a crybaby who makes everything up. He deserves what he gets." The outburst, recorded in Ms. Torres's notes, stunned even Holt. Nathan's head dropped, his shoulders slumping. The therapist's report, submitted to the court, underscored Nora's lack of remorse and the Warrens' failure to address it. Judge Mendel's ruling came swiftly. "The evidence is overwhelming," she declared. "Caleb Tate has endured repeated harm, enabled by a family culture that prioritizes image over accountability. I'm granting Mara Tate temporary full custody. Nathan Warren may have supervised visits after completing parenting classes. Nora and the elder Warrens are under a no-contact order pending Nora's enrollment in a therapeutic program." Her gavel fell, a sound like breaking chains. Outside, the air felt lighter, though the fight wasn't over. Victor stormed past, muttering about appeals, while Eleanor's icy stare promised further battles. Nathan approached, hesitant. "I'm sorry, Mara. I'll do the work to be in Caleb's life." I nodded, reserving judgment. Words were cheap, actions would prove him. That night, Caleb and I celebrated with pizza and a movie, a new tradition. "Does this mean I don't have to see Nora?" he asked, his eyes hopeful. "For now, yes," I said. "You're safe, and I'll keep it that way." He hugged me, his small frame warm against mine. As he slept, I checked my blog. Breaking. The silence had gone viral, shared by parents across the state. Messages poured in from families who'd faced similar battles, thanking us for giving them courage. The Warrens' empire was crumbling, but Caleb's light was rising. The Art Fair award ceremony loomed, a chance for him to shine. I knew the final battle awaited, but for now, we were free. The town art fair glowed under a crisp Minnesota autumn sky, the community center alive with laughter and the scent of cider. Caleb's dragon painting hung at the heart of the exhibit, its vibrant wings catching the light, a beacon of his resilience. I stood beside him, my heart swelling, as he accepted a blue ribbon from Mrs. Larson, his art teacher. "This is for courage," she said, her voice warm, and the crowd applauded, their cheers a shield against the shadows we'd faced. I'd been Mara Tate, the florist who once cowered under the Warrens' influence, but Caleb's bravery had taught me to stand tall. Today we weren't just surviving, we were shining. The past weeks had been a whirlwind. Judge Mendel's ruling had shifted our world. Temporary full custody for me, supervised visits for Nathan pending parenting classes, and a no-contact order for Nora and the elder Warrens until Nora completed a therapeutic program. The decision was a lifeline, but the Warrens hadn't surrendered. Victor had filed an appeal, claiming judicial bias, while Eleanor's social circle spread whispers about my vindictive nature. But their empire was crumbling, exposed by Jenna Price's emails, Claire Voss's testimony, and the Carters' courage. The truth, once unleashed, refused to be caged. The day after the ruling, Lena called with news. "Victor's been dropped from the board of his investment firm," she said. "The publicity from Sarah Klein's articles and the Truth for Caleb # made him a liability." Local businesses, wary of the Warrens' tarnished name, began distancing themselves. A major charity gala, once adorned with my floral arrangements, replaced Eleanor as its chair. The community was waking up, and their silence was louder than any protest. Caleb's art had become a symbol of hope. His award ceremony drew reporters, including Sarah, who wrote a follow-up piece titled, "A Child's Art, A Mother's Fight." It featured Caleb's dragon painting and quotes from parents inspired by our story to confront their own battles. My blog, Breaking the Silence, had exploded with thousands of shares and messages from families nationwide. One email stood, "Out. A national advocacy group invited me to speak at their conference on child safety. Your story could change laws, they wrote. I wasn't ready to see myself as an advocate, but for Caleb I'd try. Nathan's transformation was slower, but real. He started his court-mandated parenting classes and attended supervised visits with Caleb at a local family center. During one visit, he brought a sketch pad, drawing alongside Caleb, a clumsy dragon that made our son laugh for the first time in his presence. I'm learning, Mara, Nathan told me after. I let my parents' expectations blind me. I want to be the father Caleb deserves. I nodded, cautious but hopeful. Show him Nathan, not me. He'd missed a visit since, but Caleb seemed lighter, sketching with bolder strokes. The final hearing came a week before the art fair. Victor and Eleanor didn't attend, sending Holt with a weakened appeal. Judge Mendel was unmoved. The evidence is irrefutable, she said. The Warren family's actions endangered a child. The temporary orders are now permanent with reviews every 6 months to assess Nathan's progress and Nora's therapy. Lena squeezed my hand as the gavel fell. Outside, I exhaled, the weight of months lifting. Caleb was safe and the Warrens' grip was broken, but the cost lingered. My floral business had taken a hit. Several clients never returned, spooked by the Warrens' whispers. Yet new ones emerged, drawn by my story. A local cafe owner ordered weekly arrangements, saying, "We support fighters." The community's embrace was a balm, and I began rebuilding, one bouquet at a time. I even started teaching a floral workshop, pouring my love for beauty into others, just as Caleb poured his into art. At the art fair, Caleb's moment in the spotlight felt like a new beginning. He stood tall, answering questions about his painting with a confidence I hadn't seen before. "The dragon's my friend," he told a reporter. "He helps me be brave." Mrs. Larson beamed, whispering to me, "He's a star, Mara, and so are you." As we walked through the fair, Caleb holding his ribbon, a familiar face appeared, Lisa Moreno, the mother who'd spoken out about her daughter's ordeal with Nora. "You gave us courage," she said, hugging me. "My daughter's in therapy now, healing because of you." That night we celebrated at home with ice cream, Caleb's laughter filling the kitchen. His latest sketch, a boy, a dragon, and a woman with a glowing shield, hung above the table. "That's us," he said, pointing. "You're the hero, Mom." Tears blurred my vision. I'd failed him once, ignoring my instincts under the Warrens' sway, but I'd fought back. For him, I'd become unstoppable. A surprise came the next morning. Nathan arrived, cleared for his first unsupervised visit in months. He brought a gift, a set of professional colored pencils for Caleb. "I want to earn your trust," he said, his eyes on our son. Caleb hesitated, then nodded. "Can we draw together?" They sat at the table, sketching side by side, a tentative bridge forming. I watched from the doorway, my heart torn between caution and hope. Nathan had a long road ahead, but for Caleb's sake, I'd give him a chance. My blog became a platform for change. I accepted the advocacy group's invitation, preparing a speech about protecting children from powerful enablers. The Warrens faded from public view, Victor retired quietly, Eleanor withdrew from social circles, and Nora's therapy reports, monitored by the court, showed slow progress. Their legacy, once untouchable, was now a cautionary tale. As autumn deepened, Caleb and I planted wildflowers in our backyard, a symbol of growth after hardship. "They'll bloom next spring," I told him, our hands in the soil. He smiled. "Like us." His words were my victory, proof that love and truth could outshine even the darkest shadows. Our story wasn't just ours anymore. It belonged to every parent who'd ever fought for their child, every voice that refused to be silenced. If it resonates with you, those moments you stood up for what's right no matter the cost, give it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories of courage blooming where fear once grew.